We're looking at the southwest portion of Colorado, a little bit of Utah over here. This area is about, I'd say, 200 miles wide and maybe a little over 100 miles from north to south. We started with our last video in Montrose, went down through Ridgeway and Ouray, and wound up in Silverton. This video is going to drive around Silverton with a little bit of commentary, and then visit Durango and Vallecito. Sadly, I missed a little imagery of the beautiful space in between Silverton and Durango. I'll have to go back and do that one again.
I can't help myself. I gotta drive up Main Street and back. One reason I can't help myself, I think this is a road. You can't really see the stripes. There's the Historical Society, also the place where they publish newspaper from. We used to work for the newspaper for a number of years. So, in this entire county, there are 2 paved roads. We've just been riding on one, and this is the other. Lots of ghost towns around here, and it's interesting when you go into those ghost towns and you see an abandoned house with the wall coverings all coming off. Hey, there's my bike. And then you think they were, oh, look at those things. That's a tourism business, so I don't know, what was I going on about? You can rent those razors. Look at that Ford Galaxy. Oh, right. The old broken down houses were the same age as mine, and you could see them from the inside out. You could come up here and think that those houses were basically the same as the one that I lived in. So this was absolutely a Wild West town. Cowboys would come to the bars and get drunk, start shooting the lights out. See that Wyman? The son of the guy who built that wrote a letter, or wrote a book, Iron and Snowflakes. I forget what it was titled, but it was basically all of his boyhood adventures. Oh, let's go up here and turn around. Cement Creek. Oh, that obituaries book. Alright, maybe there's 3 paved roads if you want to count that one as separate. Would be tempting. So here on Cement Creek lived an old hermit. Had a reputation for being kind of filthy and stinky. One day he shot himself in the head, but survived somehow or another, and moved to Denver, where, oh, he survived but lost his eyesight. He moved to Denver and started selling newspapers on the corner, and became kind of an ambassador in Denver for anyone who came from the Western Slope. And so, through his misfortune, he found purpose and was beloved by all. And the Victorians had nice sayings for blind. Delicate sayings, euphemisms, and they would say that someone was blind was delighted. And so this gentleman said, I was never so delighted since the day I was delighted. Well, anyway, this is the northern terminus of the railroad. There are no trains here today because they are probably not running yet. They don't normally run until May. So maybe another 2 weeks and the train will start running. 2 reasons. One, oh crap, we're going to pass these people again. One reason is that there's no tourists, and the other reason is that there's avalanches all over the tracks. In the winter one year, the tracks were closed so long that the dairy cows started starving. And city council knew this, and they started trying to find some person who would get some cattle feed in here, and they couldn't, and they couldn't, and they couldn't, and they finally came upon the idea to get someone down in Durango to mail them something like 50 bales of hay. And I imagine that the cost of postage was the same in the summer or the winter, and the mail must go through. So the post office hired a mule train to bring the mail up here. And at one city council meeting, one famous city council meeting, the dairy farmer, who was at his wit's end, came storming in the front door, slammed his shotgun down on the mayor's table, said, "You don't get me some food, I'm going to have to start shooting the dairy cows." And at the same time, postmaster came running in and said, "You are not getting those mules in my post office." And it made for a good story. Anyway, this road here, you can see, if I can turn my head long enough, safely enough, you can see where they drilled down into the rock to blast it away. Looks like the highway department's come back and blasted away a little more. But they would have guys on ropes dangle down the side, drill a hole, fill it full of black powder, put a blasting cap in, light the fuse, and hope that your buddies pull you up in time to get out of the way. Anyway, that's all I know about that. That's a waterfall back in there. Mostly frozen. Now we're at 10,000 feet. It is lovely outside. Let's see if we can't figure out this computer thing, figure out what our temperature is. Might be 61 degrees up here, which is incredibly delightful. Right. Raider Ridge. I have no idea why it's called that. So this is called the Mesa, College Mesa. Used to be where they had the big cistern for town. Oh yeah, let's take the scenic route. Unfortunately, they didn't get a whole lot of snow this year. And what they had is mostly melted. This time of year, those mountains should be all white instead of just a little bit. I believe that little pond used to be the water supply for town. Happy little golf course. I think we talked about Perrin's Peak, where the coal came from. And Hog's Back Ridge in front of that. It's Fort Lewis College. And this is the top of the ski hill, where looks like they have a little lift that you can sit on like a kid's swing. On the left we have the sports fields. It's where we used to coach our Special Olympics in the summertime anyway. A lot of fun times there. I had talked earlier about this valley that we're in, or somewhat above at this point, being carved out by glaciers. This one mountain at the end of town, Smelter Mountain, this is not a regular mountain, it's just everything that was in the valley that got pushed up at the end of the glacier. This is how far the glacier went and pushed all that up. The lovely Fort Lewis College campus, where we used to have a radio show. There's the little trail that goes all the way down the hill. We're not going to inspect that. Not on this bike. Somebody else looking at the view. It's definitely what we call the scenic route. I don't know if you can tell just how much cleaner that windshield is, but it's kind of 100% cleaner, thanks to my friend Travis and his advanced knowledge of cleaning products. He helped me get all that crud off of that windshield so it looks almost new. I'm stoked. See right through it, but we don't have to. I love a challenging 10-mile-an-hour turn. I lived right down the bottom of this hill. Oh, we should cruise the house. One night I was sleeping upstairs with my window open, and I could hear somebody skateboarding down this hill, because they had the really loud wheels. And then I heard him crash, scratch, 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 and then just, oh! Not funny, I guess, but that's cost of glory sometimes. Yeah, so here are the old miners' cabins of Durango. And I was 7 blocks away from the main street on 7th Avenue here. Actually, that would be 6 blocks away. My house was the first one, or maybe the second one on this street. When I moved here, there were a number of neighbors that had been here for 70 years or more. And a 95-year-old lady lived in that house there. She had great historical stories. This gray house is the one that I lived in for, I don't know, close to 20 years. And you see the crab apples just starting to bloom. We had a beautiful front porch and we could sit out there. Neighbors walk by, you could talk to them. All around this block, I would say when Libby was a baby, or 1 year old and just learning to walk, there were 30 people around this block that knew her name. New neighbor. Here's the street I would walk down to get to work. Not sure how many of the people still live here after 12 years, but I see a lot of familiar cars. A lot of people still here. And Greer lived right there across the alley from me when I met her. You know, these beautiful brick houses. Back in the day, city council really encouraged people to build with brick or stone because the wood places were always burning down. Ooh, look at the job they did on that place. This is 4th. And the other reason why they did it was that the cowboys from Farmington, which is about an hour south of here now, would come and shoot down from the mesa into the town just to terrorize people. And this house here on 7th and 3rd was a refuge that everyone would go and collect in and wait out the hail of bullets. Anyway, what else is there in Durango, Colorado worth inspecting? Oh yeah, just beautiful, beautiful homes. This is 3rd Avenue, known as the Boulevard. All the proper people lived here. And sometimes, just to annoy the proper people, the saloon girls would all load up in a wagon and come ride up and down this street, causing a controversy that would go on and on. Isn't it gorgeous? Springtime, summer, this can't be beat. Wintertime, I didn't hate it, but it was hard. For me, anyway. Had a friend that used to live in that house. And we've been down this bit before. This is all the churches are. Gonna sneak over to the office and grab a few last things before we hit the road. Here's the old high school. It is not the original high school, but it's pretty old. Here again's the condo building where we had the second smallest condo and lived in it with Libby. A 1-bedroom. We knew the guys who built it, and they had Greer pick the colors of the bricks because they trusted her with their lives. Oh crap, I was talking and I went the wrong way. Oh, this might not be too bad. Okay, we're going to check out North Main. Some big festival over there. Not sure why. So here on Main Avenue, they used to have a horse-drawn trolley. And then later on, it became electric. I believe it was electric. And the kids like to be kind of pranksters. They would do two different things. While we're on the trolley, I'll finish the topic. This little hill ahead, they used to grease the tracks. Then the electric trolley couldn't make it up. Guess they'd all have to get out and clean about 300 feet of tracks. The other two things that they would do, they would save for mischief night. Number one was to tip over people's outhouses. And number two is if you left your carriage on the street, they would just grab the yoke of it and drag it around town and drop it off in some unknown location. You have to get on the back of your horse and go find it. What else do I know about Durango? So, there's a really cool thing over there. It's a trout hatchery. And it's all these big tanks where they start with fish eggs and they get them to the point where they're most likely to survive, and then they stock the rivers with them. We're moving from Durango into Animas City, which has since been incorporated by Durango, but it was here first. It was here before the railroad, and it served all the farmers. And when the railroad came, the railroad Denver and Rio Grande gave an offer to the city founders, city council, whoever it was at the time. The city council turned them down. So they just went 5 miles downstream, bought 160 acres, and subdivided it. And that became the big town, and Animas City later on eventually just got annexed. Here's the high school. Heading up to see my friend Jonathan, see if we can't help him get full price for his van. Animas City. So Animas City is an incident of an unfortunate murder where one of the gangsters, Ike Stockton, there's lots of great stories about Ike Stockton. Someday I'd love to make a movie about him. One of the gangsters was getting a shave at the barber. The barber was a black man. Accidentally cut Ike Stockton, who is a bit of a racist and a bit of a jerk overall. Said, "Boy, if you cut me again, I'm gonna shoot you dead." And of course his hands started shaking, and he cut him again and shot him dead on the street. I believe that was up here on the left. Here in the parking lot of the grocery store is one of the oldest buildings in town. Go way back to the 1850s. Where did it go? There it is. It used to be the Adaptive Sports Association, where I would pick everybody up for our Saturday adventures. Here we are on the Animas River. Really, really lovely spot. This has got to be where I'm going. That red roof is it. Oh yeah. So now we're in Durango, Colorado, right behind our office, E7 Systems. Across the street, the mountain's hogback. Not really a mountain. Behind that big jutting thing is Perrin's Peak, where they used to do a lot of the coal mining around here. Newspaper on the left, Durango Herald. Been around since the gunfighter days. That balcony up there where the brick turns to gold, that was our condo. Owned that for about 10 years, lived in it for 1. Very fancy, small place. Just a lovely building all in all. Do a quick peruse of Main Street here in Durango. Nice blending of the old and the new. These buildings date back to 1881. It's springtime, so it's really quite lovely. The old post office. They even make the new buildings look like they fit in the older ones. In fact, that building is half new and half from the 19th century. Just the beginnings of tourist season. Summertime rolls around, you can barely get up and down the sidewalk. There's so many people here. I'm going to call it right here. We'll do the rest of Main Street on another day. I have a meeting to get to. There's the El Rancho Tavern, owned by a friend of ours. Back in the old days when I would go there, there'd always be a fight. And in fact, there was originally a famous fight with Jack Dempsey. Went up against a local guy. And Jack Dempsey lost. Here's our police station. Oh, hey, let's check out a little bit of 3rd Avenue. So that was the business street, and they planned this out to be both the church street, and it also turned out to be a street where all the bigwigs built their homes. So some of the fanciest homes in Durango are here on 3rd Avenue. We'll see a few. You can see there's lots and lots of churches. So the mine managers and folks like that would live here on this street. This house here is now a mortuary, but it was built very unique architecture. It was built by the manager of the coal mines, and he was trying to make it extra especially nice for his wife, who lived in Denver. Didn't want to come out here to the western slope in the middle of nowhere. She lasted 1 year in that house before she decided Durango was maybe a little too small for her. And she went back to Denver. There is the Animas River on the left. Not really getting a good view of it at this point. train runs up and down there. There's our little ski resort in town. A beautiful 64 Cadillac, I think, maybe 3. They used to have a ski jump over there, but I guess too many people got hurt. Moving out of the old town of Durango. We're going to get a little view up the Animas Valley. This whole area was carved out by a glacier back in the last ice age. And so, unlike valleys and canyons that are carved by streams, this has got a flat bottom, a U shape, instead of a V. Up into the pine forests of Edgemont Ranch. I was riding along here one night on my first street bike, and way ahead in the distance in my headlight, right here actually, I caught a glimpse of a mountain lion who was probably shopping this neighborhood for morsels, just slinking across the road, but his profile was unmistakably that of a big cat. You can actually smell the pine trees out here. Yay! Dirt! Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it. I'm also pretty sure I have to be stupid careful. On this surface, because I'm not on a dirt bike by any stretch of the imagination. Also a great place to figure out whether or not there's any loose bolts on this bike.